Nothing quite like the cold start of a healthy small block. Anyway, it's time to be back in the shop getting some work done. King of the Open Road is over. Rocky Mountain Race Week is over, and we don't really have any more events scheduled for this year. So it's time to start looking forward as to what we want to do next year. As you can see, that car is not piled up and hidden back there in the corner anymore. That project is going to be coming back onto the channel. We're going to get to work and build, see about actually building a real gasser here sometime very soon. But first, there's a few little things we want to take care of on the wagon that we discovered out at King of the Open Road, and the Chevelle, which is now up in the driveway. There's a future project on that that we'll also address before we move over to working on that car, because, well, that's a big project and we got lots to do on that and lots to sort out. So today, the wagons project is actually pretty simple. One of the things that was discovered out at King of the Open Road was that I was having issues with getting full throttle, and ultimately the gas pedal feel just didn't have a good feel to it. And I suspect that say hi.
Hi.
I suspect that the issues with the feel of the gas pedal had a lot to do with the fact that this was my throttle arm coming off of the factory gas pedal, which is just a piece of all thread that has a nice little whoopty in it to clear the linkage for the 700R4. And what I'm referring to here is this little guy right here, which originally was about 2 inches longer, and it was sectioned and shortened up so that I could actually clear it. And then this guy sat right here like such and came right over the top of that. Ultimately, that did not work out all that great. So what we're going to end up doing today is we're going to pull this bracket off, and I'm going to have to keep it all in the same geometry. Where this is right here still needs to be right here, but we're going to basically lop this off, lop that off, and create a piece that comes right down right behind the base plate of the carburetor and attaches to it down here, getting rid of all of this, which will then hopefully allow me to go from my gas pedal here to the carburetor here in a straight line. That's the plan. And assuming that that all works out, we'll make a new rod out of, instead of using all thread like what we had here, we'll make a new rod using actual solid rod, and we'll thread the ends of it at the right length to accept the heim joints. And by all means, that will give us a nice, clean, crisp throttle alignment that has better feel on the pedal because it doesn't have that big swoop to it, as well as it'll also be a lot stiffer, because the other thing that was noticed is that when you really mashed on the pedal, because of the weird geometry, this was flexing and stuff just wasn't quite working right, and it's not great. And realistically, if you got a double pump or 4-barrel, you want all the throttle, all 100% of it. You don't want to be giving up 10% of it because your throttle linkage is flexing and not actually doing its job. So we're going to make that happen. We're going to fix it. And today's the day, because why not, right? Okay, the bracket is now, this is the bracket out of the wagon, and I've got it mocked up on a parts carburetor that I had kicking on the shelf, which mounts exactly the same way. It keys into the flange of the carburetor the same way it does on the one on the car, so I know that the position of this is exactly where it's at on the car. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to end up hacking this thing off, and I've already taken and then cut up a piece to put in right there like such. And if we look at it from this angle, you can see how much metal that's going to remove. All of this is going to go away so that we can have more room for the throttle linkage. Next, we'll take this, and with the bracket still on the carburetor, we're going to tack this piece in place to the the lower portion and to the upper portion before I cut any of the existing metal off, so that it helps keep anything from wiggling around. After I get it tacked in place, I'll pull the bracket off of the mock-up carburetor and weld this completely out so that this is fully welded in place with all the existing metal still there. Then after that is when I will cut off all the extra BS on there. And hopefully with this being 1/8 inch thick material and keeping all the extra metal in place, it will resist wanting to do too much warping walking around. And again, I'll keep my heat management in check. I won't just, you know, burn the whole thing out real fast and let it, you know, pretzel out. We'll do spots, little bit here, a little bit there, cool the material off and finish it out so that it, by all means, everything stays where it's supposed to be. Now, I do this on camera for you, but it's too hot and the GoPros don't like working in the heat. So you're just gonna have to see the finished product here and like this. The bracket has been completely rebuilt. As you can see, I've got it here on the mock-up carburetor, and here's the chunk we removed off the back of that, and the geometry on there is still exactly the same. The location where the TV cable, you can't even see what I'm pointing at, the location where the TV cable goes relative to the carb stud and the mounting plate didn't change at all, because I put the new piece in before I cut away the old stuff. A little closer look here and you can see just how much material I actually removed off of this. If this goes right here like that, and that's what's gone. Yep, before, after, before, after. From this side, before, after, before, after. Now you might be thinking, maybe there's some stiffness differences. Well, the TV cable doesn't have that much draw weight to it. So this 1/8 inch steel is plenty rigid to not flex in there under the draw of the TV cable. Not any more than this would have allowed, which is all a bunch of 1/8 inch too. It's super rigid for what it's got to do. So we're going to get this and we're going to mock it up back over on the car, throw it on the carburetor over there, and we'll look at what we can do for a actual throttle linkage. Now we might be able to just go in a perfectly straight line, because not only did we clearance a bunch of material from front to back, but we also gained height or elevation clearance from the top of the bracket down here because of getting rid of all that thickness that was there on that piece. So we'll see, let's see what we got. All right, that's the bracket now reinstalled on here. And as you can see, the clearance, everything here, I mean, hold on, let's go grab that other piece. There it is. I'll show you what, ooh, whipping you around real quick, don't get seasick on me. Now, this would have been here like that. And you can see just how much clearance now has been added by getting rid of this piece. Which means with this all the way down, which is kind of hard to show with one hand, but we'll see if I can do it. Grab my new piece of rod here. I push the throttle all the way down so that the pedal is up in the car, and this is where it's closest on clearance. You can see that there's a lot of room. I can run a straight line link now between those 2 points without interfering with that bracket, instead of having to run this kick up link that was here before which was making the, well, I suspect anyway, that it was contributing to the poor feel of the gas pedal and resulted in excess flow. So the next piece to this puzzle is to use this piece of rod and tap the ends of it, or thread the ends of it, so that I can put the heim joints on it and make that little straight rod, which in theory should be a pretty easy thing to do. We'll see if I can do that successfully. I mean, I got that part figured out, and that should be the harder piece to get sorted. And now my TV cable setup actually has good clearance on it, which should improve the feel of the gas pedal and should have overall better throttle response, better linkage geometry. Everything should just be better. Again, it's still hot in the shop, so the process of cutting and threading that is just not, and it's not good for video anyways, but it'll make my GoPro overheat. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start working on that, and once we get to the next step where I'm actually getting ready to set my final length, I'll show you what that looks like and how I'm gonna come up with that geometry. Here we go. We've got the rod in place. One end has been tapped and is now threaded into the heim joint back here at the pedal. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure the pedal is down basically to where it's on the stop inside the car. It doesn't really want to go down any further. Plus, I mean, it will a little bit and I can force it down, but I don't want to have it riding on top of this bracket. So I'm gonna let it sit right about there where it likes to be. And then I'm gonna get this heim joint right up here, basically in line with the rod, coming right across the center of the bolt that holds this heim joint in place. Then I'll take my little marker, and the heim joint has the big round part the bolt goes through, and then it's internally threaded pretty much the full depth of the collar that's on here. So I'm going to mark the rod basically just a little bit eyeball longer than what's shown, because it's always easier to cut a little bit off than it is to put a little bit more back on. And from this point, we'll go ahead and we'll cut this off right here. We'll thread this end, and that will allow us to put this heim joint on the rod, and we'll have a nice straight link between these 2 points. After we get this checked, installed, then we will we'll check the gas pedal and we'll see if we're getting wide open throttle. We already know we've got the clearance needed here to stay clear of our TV bracket. And if this works out, this is a much cleaner, nicer throttle linkage that's probably going to feel a lot better on the pedal than that wonky curve thing we had going on before out of the cheapo all thread. And the other thing that I made sure to do is I did thread it enough for a jam nut to go on right at the end. Now, both of these heim joints are right-hand thread, not turnbuckle style, where one's left hand, one's right hand, so you can just twist it to adjust it. I went with right-hand thread on both ends because I didn't anticipate I would actually need to adjust this very often. It's a one-time set deal. So you don't really need a jam nut, but I'm going to go ahead and put them on there anyways, just because it locks it all up and keeps the joints nice and parallel, so that hopefully things don't bind up. A couple quick simple tips for threading rod. Now, one, you want to make sure you get a rod diameter that is appropriate for the size of the die that you're going to use. In the case of a 1/4-28, 1/4-inch diameter rod is nearly perfect, so that's why I'm using 1/4-28 for this throttle linkage. Two, you want to make sure that when you cut it off, because it comes in long lengths, that you square the end best that you can. Now, with a real small rod, like a 1/4 inch, getting the end perfectly square, with the right tools you could verify it, but just get it as close as you can, seeing it by eye, and it should be close enough. Three, instead of trying to tap this in that's freshly squared off, you want to taper the end of this so that your die has a taper to ride down onto. An easy way to do this is take your grinder, hold it on the bench, hold the rod in your hand so that you can spin it, and then just rotating the end of it. You don't need a lot of pressure, but you want to keep it spinning because you don't want to create any flat spots. And you get a nice little taper on the end of that. And that's going to help your die when you go to start. Your threads aren't going to have to cut full depth right there on that end, and it's going to make it a lot easier to get your die to actually start making the cut and to get your cut to be nice and straight on the rod. 4, holding on to this while you're trying to get the die started. You're trying to do this, it's extremely difficult to actually get the threads to go, and something like this is hard to hold on to because it does take a fair bit of force. Grab yourself a good old-fashioned wooden clothespin. Put it on your rod like this. Go up your vise, benchtop vise, or if you have to use a clamp if you don't have a vise, vise is better. Slide that sucker right on into the vise and clamp it. Now, this alone won't necessarily stop the rod from rotating, but what it's going to do is it's going to hold on to it for you very well without wanting to twist or fall over. Next, take a pair of vice grips that are, decent. And yes, this may leave a mark in the rod, but not so bad. You don't have to wrench it so tight that it galls it really bad that you can't smooth it out. Depending on your material, if it's aluminum, you may not want to do this, but aluminum also cuts easier, so you may not need the extra grip to keep it from rotating. And just get these adjusted just right so that they bite on there. Now you can see all of that's going to stay in place. The reason we need the vice grips on there is once we start turning this guy on there, this rod's going to want to twist, and that clothespin alone is not enough to keep it from twisting. Once that's in there, then you can start working your die onto the top. And this is going to be a little bit of a challenge to get started. But you want to get it started without any oils or anything like that. You want to get the first threads to start cutting down into that tapered section. And just take your time. Personally, I'm a weirdo, and it works better for me if I walk around it to keep the die level rather than just try and twist it by hand, which makes it look like I'm doing a dance around the vise. You can see it's starting to bite. It's staying there by itself. We'll do this a couple more times and it'll get the first couple threads going, and at a certain point it's going to get hard enough to cut that you'll see the vice grips start to twist a little bit, and that's when we know we've got enough bite into it that we're ready to move to the next part of how we're going to do this, which is when the next tip will come. All right, you see that? My vice grip started to move. That means I've got enough bite into that rod with the die that everything's wanting to move. Now all the vice grips are going to do is give me a handle to hold on to keep that rod from moving. We also have enough of it started that at this point, here's your next tip. You want to take a little bit of a cutting oil, a 3-in-1 oil, WD-40, Kroil, something like that, a lubricant, and just a little tiny bit. You don't need to douse it. One little drop down on the threads is all you need, because you don't want to build up a bunch of oil and crud in there. Just enough to keep the cutting nice and smooth. And at this point I switch to one hand on the vice grip and then one hand on the die. A little bit of downward pressure and slowly turning. I've got one more tip for you, but it's a little bit further down in the cut. Okay, now we have enough cut on there that our die is going where it's going to go. It's as straight as it's going to be. If it's not straight, well, then we messed up and we'll have to cut off what's there. But from the looks of it, I've got this one pretty straight. So we're going to move on to the next thing. Now, as you're doing this, you start to turn and you do about a half turn and then walk it back 1/8 of a turn. Which what that's going to do is that's going to take the chips that are being cut by that die and it's going to release them from the cutting edge, and then you line it back up and it's nice and smooth, and it gets to where the cut stopped, and then you give it about another 1/2 turn and then walk it back a little bit, and you continue to do that for the full depth of your cut. Every once in a while, when you back it loose, grab yourself a little bit of compressed air, blow the chips out of there, and keep it nice and clean, because chips will make it more difficult. And after you do that, drop yourself another little drop of oil down on the cutting edge. Just one little drop's all you need, and then you're good to just keep working it about a 1/2 turn at a time. And it no longer needs downward pressure, because this is a die that's creating threads. It'll create its own pull force down as it goes. So you just have to do a little bit of turning and walk it out. The rest of your threads, nice and easy, keeping it clear, keep it lubricated, keep the chips from building up, and you'll have nice clean threads when you're done. And there we go. That's how far down my threads needed to go. Spin the die back off. Clear out the chips that are in there. Try not to drop it when it comes loose at the top. Pop the vice grips off. We got just a little bit of a mar right there. Nothing a little quick hit with a little piece of sandpaper won't make go away. And off with the clothespin that held it. Nice clean threads. All set. It's ready to be installed. All right. Out with the hillbilly noodle of a throttle linkage. And we got a nice, straight, solid rod that doesn't interfere with anything. Crisp, clean. It's not a piece of all thread. Both ends are tapped, heim joints. It almost looks like it was done on purpose. Huh, it was. And you know, I kind of halfway feel like I know what I'm doing now, because that actually came out really good. And I won't lie, I did have to make one little trim adjustment from my initial measurement. Remember, I said I was going to cut it just a little bit long. And it was a little bit long by exactly how much I thought it was going to be, right about, and not quite an 1/8 inch, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, one blade width with the cutting wheel on the grinder, and the length was just right for the geometry or where I wanted it to fit. Now, the real question is do I have full throttle? I can flip it all the way open from here, but that doesn't tell me if I have full throttle when I'm actually mashing the pedal down to the floor of the car. And since it's just me down here and I can't put the woman in the car right now and tell her to mash the pedal, I'm gonna go ahead and set you up. You're gonna get the first look, and I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at the video clip to find out if I'm actually getting full throttle. So you ready? Let's check it out. Here we go. Do we have full throttle? Do we not have full throttle? First to know, gonna be you on camera, because I won't see it until I watch the playback. All the way to the floor. Let's do it one more time, just to be sure. All the way to the floor. Yep. Is it there? Is that wide open throttle? Tell me that's wide open throttle. All right, so I just watched the playback on that little clip there to see if the carbonator is working all the way, and we got wide open throttle. Sure enough, that looks like wide open, straight up and down butterflies, if you ask me. And when I hold it from the outside and I look at what the pedal's doing with the linkage right here and what it's doing on the outside of the firewall, because I can't see inside while I'm holding the outside, everything looks to be going where it's supposed to. It goes all the way to full throttle. It moves nice and straight and linear. The pedal's got a much smoother feel to it from top to bottom. Overall, I think the fix there, by getting rid of this noodle of a throttle rod and getting rid of this chunk of that TV cable bracket that was preventing the use of a straight throttle rod, let's just say that this is way better. At the end of the day, this is way better. And that's what we can do. All you can do on your hot rods is make stuff just a little bit better each time you do something. It's never going to be perfect the first time. Hell, it's probably still not perfect, but it's a little bit better. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. Actually, no, you know what? I need to take that for a test drive. White steering wheels. You can't ever keep them clean, especially on a car that you work on all the time. I get in and out of here after working on the car like this all day, and my hands are filthy. My steering wheel is now filthy. Here's my shameless product plug for this video, and I don't care. You gotta know about it because they are fantastic. And I bought these. I paid my money for them because they are awesome. This is kind of like a baby wipe, but 10 times better. They are called Wypalls. That's the brand, and the product is the ProScrub. And you can find them on Amazon, all right? I'll put a link down below if you want to use the link, or you can go on Amazon and just search Wypalls and you can find them. Now, these things are absolutely fantastic. One, this has been in my shop since before Rocky Mountain Race Week, and these are still nice and moist, even though the container is not really sealed. Two, when they do dry out, all you got to do is squirt them with a little bit of water and they're back to brand new. And whether it's grease, dirt, grime, it doesn't matter. This thing takes it off without leaving your hands all greasy and nasty, and it does it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Look at that. Clean as can be, just like that. Other than where that dead skin is, we'll scrub that a little bit. Look at that. Oh, it's fantastic. These things are great. And the dirt, once it's in here, it's like locked into this. You're like, oh, look, that's nice and filthy now, right? Don't worry. We're going to go ahead and we're going to clean the steering wheel with it too. And instead of it smearing dirt onto the steering wheel, it takes it right off. Now, granted, this wheel is like a cream white because this is a very, very old California Metal Flake Moon Eyes wheel that was discontinued a long time ago. Love this steering wheel. Other than the fact that it's always dirty because I get in here all the time with dirty hands. But just like that, the wheel's clean, the dirt's locked into here. One more time, that product called a Wypall ProScrub. You can find them on Amazon. Links down below if you want a shortcut to it. These things are awesome and a must-have in your garage, your shop, your work truck, whatever it is. They are absolutely fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic. Wouldn't want it any other way. And look, no sticky, no grime, no oily, no nothing. I love it. Got the car out for the test drive. We'll see how the new throttle linkage feels. Got cars coming both ways. Last thing I need to do is pull out and have the throttle linkage fall apart on me. Not gonna happen, but it could. With cars coming. Oh, here we go. We also made a cam change on the secondary, so we'll see if we can mat it from a converter launch. Here we go, first gear. Bring it up on the converter. It does sound good at 6,200 RPM. race car when it just never wasn't meant to be a race car. It was intended to be a driver, and I really should just leave it that way. But we do got to get the carb sorted out so that you can at least have the throttle. And it definitely needs more converter. Just to be a good driver, even. This motor just doesn't make a lot of power down low, so a good converter, something like a 2400 stall would be nice in this car. And it just so happens that I might have a line on one that's going to work out for us. Alright, we're going to launch it one more time, but we're going to roll into it. First gear to drive, and it went from first gear, touch second, and then jumped to third. Then pulled it back down to second, and it went right back down to second, and RPM shot right back up, and it pulled again. So I definitely think we found full throttle. It's pretty happy. Cruising 2400 RPM. Solid 2400 RPM. As soon as I get the GPS speedometer to open up, we'll know how fast we're going. Oh, ads. There we go. So, 2350, 2400 RPM, 74 mile an hour. Good cruiser. But that's about all we got time for today. It's Sunday afternoon. Tomorrow's a work day. Got to get home, get stuff put away, get ready for the week. We got rain coming in this week according to the forecast. So we got to make sure there's nothing outside that we don't want to leave outside. We'll see you guys on the next one.